Grecian 5.
I know. What if there was a superpower where in order to activate it, you had to kill somebody? But you can have the power for 24 hours, unlimited use. But in order to activate it, you got to kill somebody.
Hello and welcome to Corner Comics, your mostly weekly comic book reading club. I'm your host, Burkoff. My friends and I get together each week. We share a few issues with each other, and then we talk about those issues. Gentlemen, how are you doing, and where can people find you on the interwebs?
Well, I'm doing great. Pondering the possibility of what superpowers are not shown in comics and cartoons, and those are the ones I want to read about. But you can find me at a lot of places. You can find me on Twitter at Walrus. It's at WALLRUSS. You can find me on BlackSuperheroFan.com, which I am. You can find me on Corner Comics of Color. No,
Corner Comics
not Corner Comics. Comic Creators of Color.
It's
Sorry.
a new website we need to start.
There's a new website I'm going to invent right after we get offline. Comic Creators of Color. You can find me on my personal website, walrus.org, WALLRUSS.org. And you can also find me, of course, here and on cornercomics.net.
Manuel?
Awesome. I am zen as fuck today, and you can find me.
Zen is
You
fuck.
can find me
Fuck is it?
on Instagram
Fuck is not
at
Zen.
EM_MAN_YOU_EL, Emmanuel. Or you can find me at EmmanuelTheStory.com.
I'm just thinking, if I'm gonna be zen as fuck, I don't know because I don't want my fucking to be zen.
There's some
now
duality
we're
in that.
not safe. Now we're not safe for work. In case you didn't know before,
Just right out the gate.
yeah, right. This is not
F-bombs.
safe for. Yeah,
I think you're
this is
allowed
not-
one, and then
Uh-huh.
that's it.
So luckily we're not on YouTube right now because you wouldn't be hearing us right now because like done.
All right, so we got 6 books. We're each bringing 2 to the table. The 2 that I have this week, first one is Action Comics 1004, and the second one is Solar Man of the Atom, issue number 2. We did do issue number 1, I think, on episode 14, so if you wanted to go back and check out that, you can. Russ, which 2 books do you have?
I brought a DC book, Leviathan Dawn, which there's only currently 1 issue. We'll get into that. And then I brought a random book from Magnetic Press called Gunland #1, which also came out this year. And we'll get into that later. Emmanuel?
I brought Powerless 106 from Marvel and a DC book, Batman 3 Jokers, issue number 1. This is the current run.
Nice.
Word.
All right, let's just jump into it because we do have quite a few items on the back half of the show for our round table. There's a few items on there, so jumping into it, my first book, Action Comics issue 1004. Last week, Russ posed the question, can superhero spouses be interesting? Can they hold their own books? I had mentioned Bendis, and I was like, I need to find a Bendis book where he writes a decent Lois Lane. So that was sort of how I came across this book. I did end up reading the whole Invisible Mafia story arc, which I thought was kind of cool. It was interesting. But so this is part 4. What's notable about this is sort of the interaction between Superman and Lois, and it does do what Bendis does best, which is character interactions. So what did you guys think of the book?
I'll go
first.
Oh, please, go ahead.
So I, right at the gate, dislike Lois in this. She's not likable.
Still not a
It
Lois
seems as
fan.
if she is making different rules. She's not abiding by the social construct agreement of relationships and saying, oh, our relationship is not traditional. Therefore, we don't have to abide by the traditional guidelines. That is a cop-out. She's playing my boy Clark, and I don't like it. He's just a simple farm boy. In matters of relations, he is pure-hearted. He's gonna go with whatever she leads. He's gonna follow. So she's taking advantage of the situation. Her being this very rigid, very worldly Lois Lane. Yes, she's a wife, and yes, she's a mother. But still, she has a lot more mileage in her life than Clark Kent. Dare I say Superman too, because Superman's all about true justice in the American way. He's very naive. And
Superman
Lois,
is Clark Kent.
Lois is really taking advantage of that situation, and she's not likable. She's not written in a likable way, in my opinion. So, that being said, the story is compelling because I have a strong emotion one way or another. So, Bendis did his job at writing the characters and making me feel some type of way. I really like the art was okay, but I really like the relationship between Perry and Clark. That was cool. And there's an interaction where Clark says something that's, I think, anagram, or like he says something with three M's, and then Superman says something similar. So you would imagine you don't have to be the world's greatest detective to find Clark Kent is Superman. But as of right now, I don't think the world knows.
Yeah, not this part of the run. Doesn't he reveal himself later?
Yeah, he does.
Okay.
And that's
Well,
also
Superman-
I
that's
think,
Lois
also
I think it gets into your book, Russ.
yeah, that's also
Yeah.
Brian Michael Bendis' that deal. Okay, so two things. One, I 100% agree with you on Lois. However, I don't think that the social contract that you and I see in the world is what they have. Right? Everybody gets to choose what their marriage is, right? And to hell with anyone else's view on the rules. Some marriages are open and some work and some don't. Some marriages have swapped gender roles. So I don't believe there is a social contract that anyone has to abide by. I think the two people have to, because there's only two people married, right? So I don't think she broke their social contract because I don't think he has any control over her and ever has or even wants to, right? Let's just be real. Clark Kent is a simp. He always was. Clark Kent will do whatever Lois wants, and he's okay with it, right? If you look at all the things he did, which I don't like either, right? Clark Kent just says, I need you, right? You complete me, whatever. And Clark Kent he loves the relationship he's in, even if you don't, right? He ain't trying to be nowhere else, right? And then you think of, because the world sees Superman as the strong leader and all that, but the truth is, he not. He really is Clark Kent, right? And what this book, I believe, is trying to tell me is that in the absence of Lois, Superman is not a full and complete being, right? Superman he would become maybe something evil, maybe something tragic. Just like the whole idea that if Superman wasn't born to the Kents, we would have DC would have a very different world.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If he wasn't married to Lois, there would also be a very different world. So the value, I believe, at least what this book is trying to tell us with Lois, is that she is the missing piece of Superman. Not the missing piece of Clark. She's the missing piece of Superman. Her being who she is enables him to have peace with all the mess on his shoulders, all the stuff he has to handle. There's a book that was a one-of book. I think it was in Action Comics, where him and Wonder Woman had to leave the dimension to fight some ever-generating beings, right? They had to go and fight all day, and then the next day they would come back. And they had to keep doing this to save who people they need to save. So he kissed Lois goodbye, they went into this dimension. Now, because Superman and Wonder Woman are effectively immortal, they actually were fighting for hundreds of years, right? Through time travel, you can still come back. But they were fighting for hundreds of years. And after, say, 100 years, Wonder Woman was like, we've been through battle all day, every day for years. Take this, right? And he puts it on him, and right before he's about to take it, he goes, Lois. Right? And one of them was like, "Oh, baby," and she doesn't give. Then she comes back another 100 years later. He ain't getting none, right? He weak. You know how if you fight together for long enough time, or you stand in the trenches with one woman, that bonds you, right? And he still, she really put it on him, and he goes, and he almost takes it, and then he crosses his legs and he says, "Lois, ah, shit." Right?
Crosses his legs.
You know what I mean. Metaphorically.
No, I get it.
And then so finally, they finally beat after maybe 1,000 years of fighting. And through time travel, they come back right after. He still lived that life, but he comes back right after he left and then just runs the Lois. And one of them was like, "What am I supposed to do with all?" You know what I'm saying? Because one woman got needs, right?
Yeah.
And he was, and so this is what I think the DC universe wants to get, because he is truth, justice, American way, and apple pie. He's a married man. He has a family. He follows traditional rules. Is monogamous, and yet it's still modern enough because you got Lois, who's a modern as hell woman, that it can sustain all of that and still be. So I think that Lois is 1/5 of Superman. She's not 1/5 of Clark Kent, but the Superman persona, all of it, she may be a larger percentage. I think if you ask me what the value of Lois Lane is, because let me tell you, if Superman didn't have Lois Lane, he still need to get some. What would he do? Because Batman could just go get some. Right, Batman, I got to do what I got to do so I can fight crime. So let me go, pal. Let me go handle this, and then go back and fight some crime. I know what I need. Right? Right? With Superman, with his small town values, he probably had to get married before he have sex again. Right? Superman would be jacked. So I think that there is no Superman as we know him without Lois Lane, and that is her value. Now, the second question of on her own, she's interesting. I mean, they just recently had a mini series of Lois Lane that actually I think just finished.
Yeah.
And it's not bad. But the truth is, I don't think she stands up well. I think if it wasn't for Superman, her be able to say Smallville and him hear it anywhere in the universe and come running, she would have been dead 1,000 times over. Yeah. If not the fact that she was married to Clark Kent. I don't think by herself, I'm not sure that she survives, right? Because she's a thorn in the side of a lot of powerful people, right? You trying to tell me they don't just kill her and be done? No. Especially in this universe, where you got clown princes of crime and all these other type of people. So I don't believe she stands alone, but I think he can't live without her and still be who we know him to be.
Okay.
All right, that's my piece. You got anything?
Yeah, if there any final thoughts, we can move on.
No, I'm done. I said it all.
All right, my second issue, Solar, Man of the Atom, issue number 2. The reason that I brought this was because we had done issue 1, and if I remember correctly, we were all kind of big on it, and did enjoy it. So I thought, well, let's revisit it. Let's go to issue 2, because we rarely ever do that with any of the books that we bring on. So yeah, I mean, just giving you guys just general thoughts.
Manuel?
I like that it went from the father to the daughter. Now the daughter has powers. The torch is passed or going to be passed. I like that. The character itself, they didn't really spend a lot of time on his abilities, how he is able to do what he does. We know he was involved with, I forget the other woman's name, but this woman in this realm, they had sex, and yeah.
Oh, that was
that's no. Yeah,
that's not her.
That was Deathblow. So
okay.
that you know how they have crossovers.
That's
so
what I was throwing off.
Yeah, that's a crossover. That's not real. That's not canon.
Same character. Though, yeah.
Same character, but it's crossover character.
Gotcha. I like the fact that they focus on the daughter. The torch is being passed from him to her, and there was this character, Action Hank or Action Man, whatever, that actually he didn't have powers per se. Not Action Hank. That's Dexter's Laboratory. Yes. But Action Man, where he can actually spew out or see the equations and know how to work around a thing. Like his mind actually sees the drawn out equations.
The probabilities.
Yeah. Well, not necessarily probability. Well, I guess it would be probabilities, but he can see the dimensions. Kind of like if you're playing pool, if you hit a cue this way, it moves that way. So he can see all the probabilities. So this reminded me definitely of the Man of the Atom. I'm excited. I really, really want. I don't know the way that this comic is going to go, but I really, really want the daughter to pick up the mantle, have the same abilities as him, and work it out that way. It might not go this way. I don't know. This is just issue number 2, but we'll see.
Yeah, just to interject really quickly. So the last page has a bunch of equations that are down the side and underneath. In the first issue, they allude to the fact that like it's almost like he sees science happening, and
Yes.
he does it through equations, basically. So anyway, Russ, go ahead.
Okay, so for me, Solar is the same type of character as Captain Atom, as what's the big blue guy in
Dr.
Watchmen?
Manhattan.
Yeah, these
Yeah.
are kind of very similar characters, right? Similar power set, that sort of thing. I've always liked Solar. Okay, I don't like this run. Right?
Okay.
I like Solar before this run, and I like Solar after this run. But this Dynamite run, no. Okay, so here's the deal. You got a whole issue, but I really don't like the character, the girl. I don't like her.
Okay.
There's nothing, you know what I'm saying? You didn't give me anything to like. I'm not invested in whether she succeeds. She's just, I had a rough life. I don't know what happened to me, doctor. But there's nothing about her core, right? It's like this comic book is happening to her, but you don't know who she is, right?
Okay.
Because the thing about a person being a hero is like Martian Manhunter, for example, got a lot of powers, right? But his character is what's most interesting. You know what I mean? Like Superman, we talk about, got all these powers, super ventriloquism, all this other matter.
Right.
But his character is interesting, right? She's not. They had a lot of chance to write her interesting, right? To show her past or something, but they didn't. They just showed that this comic book is happening to her.
Okay.
Right? They spent the whole comic, and it's not terrible, right? It's not. I feel like the color palette is a little subdued. I didn't really like that. I think it could have been a little more vibrant, especially when doing powers. But there are moments when I guess maybe that's it, because she's in a fuzzy state, and so maybe the comic book's in a fuzzy state. Because there are sometimes when she uses her powers, all of a sudden there's colors in the book that were never in the book anywhere else.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
like we had no. You know what I mean? So I am interested in. So what I'm saying is this is a decent book, but something was missing for me. And what was missing for me was somebody I care about. Right? I actually, in this case, probably even more care about the father, because I'm like, what happened to him?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But I don't really care about her. Right? It's good at describing what's happening and all that, but if this is a standalone book, I wouldn't tell anyone to read it. Maybe the graphic novel as a whole was better, but this book, I like the story as a whole, but not this book. Doesn't really do it for me. I think the color palette was far too subdued and made the not exciting in the book. You know what I mean? And then her story wasn't exciting. And then, by the way, now I've read and I've paid my whatever money, and it doesn't really get exciting to the last 1/5 of the book. And I'm like, okay, this is interesting. Right?
Yeah,
and then it's over.
That's when the action starts. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm thinking, don't make me wait 25 of the 30 pages of the book to get action. And I feel like that's what they did. So I can't say it's a read for that reason.
Okay. Yeah, I think other than revisiting a title that we've already talked about, the one full page E equals MC motherfucking squared. I think that's. I was like, all right, I'm gonna. That's it. That solidified my decision. I'm gonna bring this book.
Yeah, like in that last little book, if that part of the book was stretched out to the whole book, I'd be with you.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But 5 pages does not a good comic book make.
Yeah.
And those 5
true.
pages were good, but just not I needed more. But that being said, I'm going to have to bring my next book, and you may say the same thing.
All right. Any final thoughts on Solar?
No?
All right, we're good. Moving
All
on.
right.
Russ, your first issue.
Okay, my first book is Leviathan Dawn. This is a Bendis book, so Matt is not allowed to hate it because it's Bendis. So I read an article or interview with Bendis, and he said one of the things they tasked him to do was that DC had all these secret organizations. They have the DEO. They have all these organizations, and it's because everybody creates their own for their own, comic.
Right.
And he says, I want you to come in, and I want you to solidify the organizational structure of all these different government organizations, because there's no way the government is paying all this different money. So he says,
Right.
okay, and he wrote the story that predated that, the Leviathan story, which was going on in DC Books, right? Which comes to this, and then and so now in theory, you're going to see the rise of the one true government spy agency in this book, or this is the beginning of it. And it also, as I promised, it has a major Steve Trevor and Lois Lane portion of it.
Yeah.
Not a lot of really powered heroes here. So it speaks to when I said last week, you said, are they relevant? I said, challenge accepted. This is my book that speaks to that conversation. We will see if I succeeded. I leave it to you.
You want to go
I'll
ahead?
go.
Yeah.
Sure. All right. So I enjoyed this. It's not a buy, it's a read, but it's an enjoyable read. And that the spy organization, the spy stuff, it piqued my interest. And then you have Unlikely Bedfellows. You have Bones and The Question and Green Arrow, Oliver Queen, and Lois Lane. Like you have these it's kind of like Suicide Squad, but not, because they're just random characters that you wouldn't think would work together. They're working together. And Talia al Ghul,
Yeah.
that's signed, sealed, and delivered it for me. Talia al Ghul is a very underutilized and very interesting character. So written well, she can be greater than Ra's al Ghul, because she is the mother of Damian Wayne. She has all this chemistry with Batman. She, in and of herself, is just a badass. So I really appreciate these introductions of these characters and seeing where they go so far.
And again, this makes her sort of another supporting character of Batman, right? Not her own book, that sort of thing, almost in some ways, because you brought up Damian Wayne. So it's like she's a significant other.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
this is a book of a lot of significant others.
Yeah, for
Well,
sure.
all of these characters are, with the exception of Green Arrow, are
B
in
or
relation.
C tier? Yes.
Yeah, they're defined by their major. So they are the minor characters, the background, sort of, in some ways. So to have them have their own book, an adventure and quest, maybe she could then stand out, be set apart, and have a unique storyline, just all her. We'll see. I've always been interested in her character.
Yeah, well, like Russ said, it's Bendis, so I can't hate on it. No, I actually enjoyed it. I went to look for the second issue, and I was like, "What the hell? It's not even out yet!" Like, they postponed it. So yeah, initial thoughts. I was like, who the hell is this Magneto ripoff on the cover? Let's find out. But no, overall artwork is good. Good character development. I do feel like this particular book, it was written by Bendis in a past life, and some of the characters kind of feel like characters that I've read by him before in Marvel. So, like Steve Traynor does, he feels like Daisy Johnson from the Shield books that Bendis did. But that being said, I think that that's more just his style. Like, his style is, I'm gonna do characters in this particular way to make you interested in them. But yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of curious. I do want to go back and read some of the other Leviathan stuff so that I can get a better handle on who is Mark Shaw. How is he able to take over from Talia al Ghul?
Not just Talia al Ghul. And by the way, he kills Lois Lane's father. Every other secret organization, he murders them and absorbs their assets because he thinks he's the best thing to do. He's the original. Remember the Manhunter? I don't know if you remember DC's Manhunter.
No, not really.
It may not be. The Manhunter started out as Green Lantern alternates, like the Guardians of the Galaxy, whoever they are, the people in charge of the Green Lanterns. Before they had Green Lanterns, they had robots that went and did those things for them because they didn't think. They didn't just do what they were told, right?
Yeah.
And some of them are still out there rogue existing. And sort of an offshoot of that is characters that took on the Manhunter. Those who know, I don't remember, there's a saying for them. So Mark Shaw is the original Manhunter human that is operating on Earth for a long, maybe not the original, maybe the second one, but is operating on Earth and in comics, never, even in his own book sometimes, for a long time. No real powers, just skill and some good tech.
Okay.
Right? And then, but he also worked in the shadows and in between the spies and all that, sort of like the Question does in a way, but a lot more effective and a lot more willing to murder. And so, if you see all the dirt in the world, and you can change it, shouldn't you? Even if some people gotta die.
Well, so yeah, I mean, getting back to like the first comments that I made, like he kind of feels like a Magneto character to me in a way, which is interesting. You know, not that he really has any. I mean, they do show him with some powers. I'm assuming that's technology.
Yeah,
I'm
not going to spoil it, but I'm going to leave it for you to dig into the crates. But let's just say he has some things.
Okay. But in addition to that, he also has this very strong conviction about his worldview. Because there's some early dialogue where they're like, well, you kidnapped us. He's like, no, you came here of your own free will. I invited you, type of thing. And I was like, I like that. Those are the types of characters that I enjoy. So, yeah, this would be a buy for me if you could get issue 2, but it's a definite read. And then when issue 2 comes out, maybe buy both. It's just going to be the 2 issues, right? It's not going to be anything longer?
I don't know. So you say it's not a buy because it left you on a cliffhanger?
Yeah, like I want the rest of the story.
There's just one issue. Did this issue give you what you needed? As a one issue, because every issue, right? We don't do graphic novels. We do one issue.
Right.
Is this issue enough to say, damn, I enjoyed that shit?
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah, see, but you're like, no, if I can't have all of them right now, right? Because if this just came out this week and I brought it up here, right, and issue 2 was coming out next month, would you still say don't get it? You still say
are you gonna buy them both later?
I would say that it's a buy if you already know the backstory. It's a definite read to get you into the other stuff that happened, and
I can live with that. All right. Anyone else? Anything else? Anything? I would say this. I'm not a fan of the art, but the story was so. I felt like it was. I don't know. I want to say second tier comic art. You know what I mean? Like stuff you see in the other comic book companies. Yeah. You know what I mean? I felt not that it was terrible. It wasn't terrible. It's just not. It wasn't spit shine
about it.
Yeah, it wasn't spit shine.
No, it had its moments. I don't think it was as good as the Action Comics book that I had.
Of course you don't.
No, but no, I like the art actually. I kind of like the sketchiness of it, I guess, because it does have sort of that feel to it, and it almost has like a watercolor effect going on with some of the backgrounds and stuff, which I thought was cool.
I could see that.
I enjoyed it. It didn't really take me out or anything like that.
Okay, so you like this better than that Superman book? You like the Superman book better?
No, I think I like this better. This has more gravity to it. There's a lot more
stuff at stake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not just one person's relationship.
Right.
So now that we both brought this, what is it? We changed our conversation on significant others? Is Steve Trevor worthless? 'Cause
It's the thing. It's not just him alone in this book. It's an ensemble.
Yes.
So if he alone, I don't think he alone could have his own book, and I would be as invested as I am in this.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it does sort of start with just him. And it kind of feels like his story to begin with.
Wow. Go ahead.
I don't know. I think it succeeds in what you were saying, about making the character more relevant outside of their significant other.
Mm-hmm.
But I do agree with Emmanuel that even though it starts like that, it then puts him back in a situation where he has to have those supporting characters to make him relevant. So
Okay.
yeah,
But even every hero has supporting characters, though, right?
true. Yeah,
Even Wonder Woman has supporting characters. By the way, I was looking to see if there was an actual Steve Trevor comic, and no, and because there is a Lois Lane comic,
Yeah.
not many of those, right? The only
This
comic
doesn't-
I could find that says Wonder Woman, Steve Trevor. So this is a Wonder Woman starring Steve Trevor, in which he gets his own graphic and everything else, but above his name is still Wonder Woman.
well,
Yeah, this does not feel like a Steve Trevor book. To
Got
me,
it.
it does not. Maybe in the beginning,
yeah,
but overall, I would not claim that this is, hey, you like Steve Trevor? He has his own book. This is it. I would say, if you like Steve Trevor, check out this. Him and a bunch of other folks are doing something you might be interested in.
yeah,
So I liken this to Suicide Squad because a lot of those characters can't survive on their own in a comic book, right? But the group that they comprise really, can shine if well written. So I'm thinking this is
Right.
what this is.
yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's also characters whose name you know, right? You know Lois Lane. So when you go into this book and she does something, it affects you in a way because you have a history in your mind of Lois Lane. You have a lesser history of Steve Trevor, right?
Yeah.
And some of these other characters, and the Question, and Green Arrow. So the fact that you already is baked in that you know them when you started this book, there's 2 or 3 characters at worst that you don't know, but everybody else you know. And I think that makes a difference here.
Yeah, I think this would probably be my final thought on it because I was just scrolling through it again. I think I like Damian Wayne better here in this book than I did in Teen Titans.
Yeah, that last week. Oh, I'm going to say something about that Teen Titans. Remember, I didn't like it because I said everything's going to happen in the next book. It did. That's all I'm saying. Don't get that book, get the one after. And if you don't know which book I'm talking about, check out our last episode.
Yeah. All right, moving on. Your second book, Russ.
Yeah. My second book is Out of the Blue. And I didn't know where it was going. It was interesting. It was different. There was murder right away. You know, I like a good murder. And then it went somewhere that I kind of didn't see coming. And even though the graphics weren't what I would have chosen, it kind of like had a heavy metal vibe to it, in that it was all post-apocalyptic, yet old school, yet aliens. And I didn't really, at all mixed up together. So I liked this because I felt like this could have fit into a heavy metal book, and it had murder. And it started having gravitas, especially near the end. But that's my thing. That's my thought. What did you guys think?
Manuel?
Yeah, I knew it, man. I knew.
I really liked it.
Yes!
I really enjoyed this book. So much so to where I read the next book and I'm looking forward to reading the next one and the next one. So
Excellent.
I really enjoyed this book. This caught me by surprise in that I'm not really a fan of Western theme. It's never been a thing for me. Whenever I was a kid, parents used to watch Westerns, I would tune out. But this one, no, there's Westerns and dinosaurs. There's cowboys and dinosaurs. There's
Aliens.
like telephones and aliens. There's this mixture, just as Russ was saying, like this amalgamation of genres. And I like it. I like it a lot. And then these are compelling characters. The 3 brothers, the 3 outlaws, that's great. And then they find this artifact or this elemental item that grants them abilities. They all 3 have one. We're looking like how it affects them individually. There's some emotion tied to it because there's like an adoption process without papers or whatever because it's the West. But this is good. This ticked all the boxes, I think. The art necessarily wasn't 100%, but other than that, it was great. The art doesn't deviate, it doesn't distract me. It's just, in my opinion, if it were done differently, I would have liked it a bit more. It would have gotten 100. Right now, it's at a good solid 90 something. So
Okay.
this is good. This is definitely a buy.
Yeah, this is. I think I put in the show notes that this is Rick and Morty meets Trigun. Uh, I don't know how else really to
Nice.
describe it. I do actually really enjoy the artwork. I didn't at first because I was like, I don't like this style. But as it goes on, there's sort of a lot that they do with it, and there's a lot of movement, and the panels are, adjusted so that um, there's a lot of action going on, and there's stuff shooting out of panels and things like that, and um, it's very colorful. Um, but yeah, I mean, it'll be kind of interesting to see like how these characters get along and what these skulls, what kind of powers have been brought out of them or imbued into them because of these alien skulls, I guess. Um, yeah, it's an interesting book. I was kind of blown away. You don't really know what to expect because it does have it's a western, but it's post-apocalyptic. But it's got dinosaurs. But it's got like
Cell phones.
yeah. There's you can kind of just do fucking anything with this book at that point. So yeah, I think this is it's a number one issue. If I could find this on the shelf, I'd buy it just to have it. Um, but yeah, it was pretty interesting. Like I said, I don't know what to expect, and I'm not really quite sure where they're going with this because you could do fucking anything at this point. But yeah, it was enjoyable, definitely.
Yep. Another one for the not big 2 or 3 or 4 or 5.
Or
There's
6 or 7. I've never even heard
yeah,
of
right.
Magnetic Press.
I feel like we've done something for Magnetic Press before, but it might be a good idea to start looking in their catalog. You know
Yeah,
how, Emmanuel, you brought that one book where the animals came to life and was sentient, and then we started looking back at a lot of those
Animosity,
Animosity, which is
Yes.
what is I don't remember the comic book company. Do you remember?
Aftershock.
Aftershock. So we all individually went back to start looking at Aftershock as, hey, there might be something here.
Yep.
So I invite you to check out Magnetic Press. I'm sure there's a magneticpress.com. See if you can find something
Yeah.
that might interest you. Because this one definitely interests all three of us.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
All right, Manuel, your first book.
All right. My first book, make sure I have it in order here, is Powerless. This is issue number 1 of 6, and it's just as the title alludes. In a world where Spider-Man gets bitten, or Peter Parker gets bitten, but he doesn't become Spider-Man because there are no powers in this world. So he just has a deformed arm. Because the spider was still radioactive, it still had an effect on his life. It just messed up his arm. And Matt Murdock is still blind. He's still a blind lawyer, but his senses aren't heightened. He's a regular human being with blindness and a law degree, and he practices law. But there are glimpses. It's taken from a psychiatrist's point of view. So he's the narrator. He has visions of the world that we know in the Marvel Universe, where Peter Parker is Spider-Man, where Matt Murdock is Daredevil, where Logan Howlett is Wolverine, or James Howlett is Wolverine. So what do you guys think?
Russ?
Uh, okay, I'll go. I did not like the art, right? But okay, I like the idea of this, right? A story where it's the same Marvel universe you know, but superpowers, mutant powers don't exist. But all those people that you know are still here. All the things that happened to them still happen to them, but there's no powers came of it, right? What I got after reading this book was this is a hopeless and very bleak comic. I mean, world, right? It's like someone took all the colors away. You know what I mean? And I don't like the world, right? I want to. It's an interesting story, but when I look at like who's the character, and I don't know who this guy is. At first, I thought he was Professor X, right, or something like that, an old version of Professor X, but apparently he's not. Uh, uh, and I don't know if he has an analog in the Marvel universe that we know. Maybe he's just the guy telling the story. But the art paints a bleak picture. The story paints a bleak picture of the world, right? And it only takes place in New York. I don't know where there's nowhere else because 90% of Marvel heroes live in New York.
Right.
But I like the idea of it more than I like the execution.
Okay.
I thought I was going to like the character of the guy who was doing the psychiatrist, but he's not necessarily likable. He's just someone who happens to be going through something and seeing something.
Right.
So I'm thinking, well, who am I supposed to like here? Because I need somebody to like in every book. Even if I like the person that gets beat up a lot because I know they're going to get revenge, I couldn't find that person here. So that's what was missing for me. All right, I like the idea of it, the parallels, the thing of Peter Parker still exists. Peter Parker is using his science mind. Peter Parker, all the things the Aunt May, all those things are there. I like the idea of it. Like if you pitch this to me and say, imagine a world where everything you know is the same, yet there are no superpowers. Imagine that Marvel universe. What would Peter Parker become? Right? What would all these people become? So the pitch would have got me, right? So I understand how this book got made. But what was missing for me was someone to care about. I couldn't even really care about Peter Parker because there's the truth. I really think that Peter Parker is just a jacked up, tragic character. Spider-Man is not. But Peter Parker, bad stuff happens to Peter Parker all the damn time. Right? He can't pay his rent. He's in a situation he can't get out of. Whatever it is, I'm out of web fluid. I got beat up and I can't go to the hospital. Whatever it is, Peter Parker is a downtrodden superhero. And now that's all you got here. So you got the worst part of Spider-Man that I could ever think of in this book. All right? So, again, I like the idea of it, but it didn't. I'm interested to know more, but really I would rather just somebody tell me than having to buy this book.
Okay.
Got it.
All right. That was my thoughts.
So, this is going to be off the beaten path, but so Todd McFarlane did an interview a long time ago about the Spawn animated series, and he's famous for saying that black is a color. Damn it. I love the artwork in this because black is a color. Damn it! Like there's something about like heavy black lines and the way that you render an image to make it, I don't know, have this sort of iconic comic book feel to it. And I like that about this book, so I really enjoyed the artwork. I feel like this could be a Disney Plus series.
Yes.
This would
Because
be,
no powers.
because no powers, like lower budget. You get to learn about the who the characters are without all of the fantastical stuff. I think it would do really well, and I enjoyed this way more than Russ did. I don't feel like it's all that bleak. I feel like it's just more realistic. When you don't have powers, this is kind of the shit that people go through,
Right.
Yeah, I have not had a chance to read the other 5 issues, but I will. I don't think that this issue itself is a buy because it's kind of a hard sell. But the trade paperback might be. So yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed it. It kind of caught me off guard. I don't remember this from when it came out. This was back in 2004, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. It's a while ago.
Yeah. So I enjoyed it. I thought it's kind of interesting. Mr. Watts seems to be seeing into the parallel universe where people do have powers. Because he's sort of dreaming about these things. So um, it could be like a House of M situation where he's in an alternate reality, but the real reality that we know, 616, is kind of bleeding in. Um, so, yeah, overall, I thought it was a good pick. For sure, a read.
Funny story that I've actually gotten into reading some of the House of M storyline, but this
it's
is a
X-Men.
huge caveat. Huge caveat. It was the storyline that focused on Spider-Man.
Oh, all right, okay.
But the House of M stuff still happened in the background. They referenced it, and the storyline came about because of House of M. But it didn't have any X-Men, any mutants really. It just had Peter Parker, and it was interesting. Just throwing it out there. I'm inching my way closer to the X-Men fan.
Yeah.
And yet,
we'll see. Still not an X-Men fan.
I'm slowly inching my way to more and more DC stuff. So we'll see. And I'll use that as a segue to get into Emmanuel's next book.
Yes. DC. So this is the story. It's called Batman. But Batman 3 Jokers. Long ago, it's been theorized that there's actually 3 Jokers, not just one. This has been a talk and referenced slightly a bit in the comics themselves, but as from my understanding, there hasn't been any solid comic that has shown, look, there's 3 Jokers. It's conclusive, and they've been ruining the Batman's family's life or just Gotham's world ever since the inception of the first Joker. What do you guys thoughts?
I'll go.
I'm
go
gonna
ahead.
jump in because I feel like Russ, you're gonna have a lot more to say about this. This is a classic Batman story. I feel like it has all of the core elements that you expect from Batman, and it's done in a very old school Batman way. The artwork is very detailed, has a lot of movement, looks really good, but it's classically done. So the panels are very much, here's 6 panels on a page, here's 9 panels on a page, here's and all very sort of rigid rectangular square shapes. It does really well for that. I don't know if I personally am all that big on Batman because all we get is Batman these days. There is a lot to like here, though. It's sort of ends on I don't want to say like a cliffhanger or a shocking moment, I guess, is how it ends. And I will. I'll let Russ. I'll let you go, and then we can talk about the final moment of the book, which is like the big, reason to read or get this book.
Okay. So everything you said, yes. Right? I'm in agreement 100% everything you said. Now, here's my extra cheese on the burger. I think the art was very detailed. I think this is a classic Batman book. I think this is going to find its way into, if you own all the big Batman stories, this is going to be one of them. This is a black label book, which means it's likely out of continuity.
Yeah.
Right? So it may or may not find its way back into continuity, or someone may come back later and say it is. So this 3 Joker thing is its own, and it makes sense to me. For example, Batman would beat Joker within an inch of his life, right?
Yep.
It stands to reason that Joker may need a couple years to heal, and we're going to need another Joker to keep the game going, right? Someone who knows all the Joker stuff, right? Now, I don't know if these are people that Joker is hypnotized. I don't know if there's a 4th Joker. I don't know if there is because you see different versions of Joker in comics. And another thing I agree with, I am friggin' Batman out. All right? I like Batman, don't get me wrong, but I feel like 7 out of 10 DC books have Batman in them. You know what I mean? or Batman themed character in them, right? Because how many DC books have we read that didn't have Batman or somebody in the Bat family in it? None. Can you think of one?
Yeah, I don't know.
See, and that's my issue. I'm getting saturated with Batman. In a world where we've had 3 different Spider-Man movie Spider-Man, now it's just a lot of Batman. That being said, I do like the idea of this. I hope the story lives up to my expectation. I do like the surprise ending, and because of that surprise ending, it made me feel like this is definitely an Elseworlds kind of book or an out-of-continuity book, because I don't think that Batman would have allowed what happened to happen. But put them in a more real-world grounded context, it makes sense that it happened. I enjoyed the book. I think if you are a Batman fan of any amount, this gives you all that you want. This gives you a good-looking Batman, something that means something to the Batman family, and a good conversation about the Joker that maybe people have been having behind the scenes for a long time. I think in that respect, it is a buy.
Okay.
One thing I did want to mention is I was under the impression it doesn't seem to be connected to a lot of the mainstream books, because one of the things about Rebirth was, I think it was Rebirth, but Bruce Wayne lost all of his scars. So the years of scarring, that shouldn't happen. In the first few panels, you see Bruce Wayne being tended to by Alfred. Alfred's, his butler, as well as his de facto doctor. So he was doing patchwork and asking Bruce Wayne, okay, what was it this time? What's the scar from this time? He just casually mentioned an umbrella. I imagine it was raspy. I don't know. Maybe when he gets to the Batcave and he becomes Bruce Wayne, he goes back to his normal voice. But in the Batman fanfare, like he just said it was an umbrella this time. But he has all these scars from Catwoman, from the Riddler, from Bane, from Joker. His body is super bruised. And I just thought it was worth a mention that he should be, if according to Rebirth, he should be perfectly fine.
So, and I also got to say that because we know, Emmanuel, you like characters that are never going to exist in continuity, only for a minute.
Apparently,
this
yeah.
is very much up your alley. And we did another book that was on DC Black Label that you brought called Batman Damned.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right? So obviously, this DC Black Label was made for someone like you.
Yeah.
On brand.
Do we want to go into spoiler territory and talk about the ending?
I'm going to leave that up to you. I'm happy to do so.
All right. Spoiler warning, anybody watching, if you haven't read this book and you want to find out for yourself what happens, leave the podcast now and come back in, 10 minutes or 20 minutes?
I don't think we're going to do it longer than 5. I think after about 5 minutes.
All right, 5 minutes after this. Jason Todd blows Joker's brains out, and Joker is laughing and smiling all the way down.
So, anything can happen. He could survive it.
No way.
Somehow.
How is he going to survive a bullet through the head?
Batman has survived having his back broke. What are you even talking about? This is magic. This whole thing is magic. How are there actually 3 Jokers? It's magic. Maybe they're clones. Maybe they are something else, right? You don't know what caused the genesis. You think they're just actually 3 different guys who just all happen to look very similar?
Well, that's
is that where you're coming from?
I mean, that's kind of
what they alluded to.
Yeah, that's kind of what they alluded to.
What if I say that there's more than that? And because there's more than that, and there has to be, because there's more than that, this may not be what you think.
Okay.
Right? And I can see Joker having a lab and growing another Joker. And we're like, oh, that one didn't work. And make another one.
You got the comedian, the criminal, and the clown.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know which one Jason Todd, aka the Red Hood, killed. I don't know. Was that the comedian? That was the comedian, right?
I feel like it is. Yeah, I feel like the Joker that's on the cover is like the classic comedian Joker.
Right.
So is this a buy or just a read?
So you guys know that this book is $7.
For some people, yes. Is it in a pristine? Is it made in special cover? Is it
Yeah,
thicker paper?
yeah. So all the Black Label stuff has a thicker cover and better paper to it. So,
Well, if you are a collector,
if you're
and you are,
yeah, if you're a collector, I would say, and you're into Batman stuff, this is probably worth it for $7.
it's a classic. Going to be a classic.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know. I mean, there's going to be. Do we know how many issues total there's going to be for this?
Nope, but apparently it's going to cost you $100 once you get all of them.
If you buy just the single issues, it may cost you $100 by the time the story's done.
But it's quality printing. It's not just your regular fare.
Yeah, and they're usually a little bit thicker. I don't feel like this didn't feel all that much longer than a normal book, but I'm not sure.
But it is a quality book, obviously in physical form, as well as how it looks, and the story is in the right place.
Yeah.
So I think, all in all, if you're a Batman fan, you have to get this. And it looks better. It's a lot of classic Batman stuff that's not the greatest art. This is really good art.
Yeah.
Right? This is a pleasure to look at. This will look good on your shelf.
Yeah.
Jeff
sure.
Johns, Jason Fabok, and Brad Anderson.
Jeff Johns. There you go. Tell you, Jeff Johns is the dude.
Yeah. All right. So that's all the books that we had for the week. I did pose a question on Twitter and see if anybody wanted us to talk about the Batman trailer. I'm assuming all of us watched it.
Yes.
How do we feel about this new Robert Pattinson Batman and that movie coming out?
Well, I feel like I said, this is Batman year 2. He's not fully adjusted yet. He still fights with anger. You know what I mean? He's still suffering, in a way that he hasn't really compartmentalized it yet. I like the idea of it. It's a decent look. But more of it is just because it's another story of Batman in an earlier time. That's the draw.
Yeah.
Robert Pattinson in the cowl, not necessarily the draw. He's a good enough actor. But that's not if it was somebody else in the cowl, as long as it wasn't a comedian, I would still have gone to see it, right? And so what is unique about this that makes me want to see it is that when the story takes place, I like Jeffrey Wright as Commissioner Gordon. That very much intrigues me because Jeffrey Wright is one of my top 10 living actors, working actors right now.
Okay.
I like the idea of that. I like a more grounded Batman, right? I mean, that's what it should show. What was the last one they did? It was a lot more. The last movies, not counting Batfleck, but the last movies before then were very grounded.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
A lot more so. So I think a grounded Batman works. And a grounded Batman that's in year 2 that still has a souped-up Camaro as the Batmobile, I think that works, right? It also makes Batman, I want to say, a little weaker. He has to try a lot harder. He's not perfect at this yet, right? He's still dealing with his emotions. And he has, I guess, lower-level bat tech and lower-level experience. This is a Batman that might slip and fall while he's running. I can live with. I can watch that.
Okay.
That's what I thought of it. That story, that's something I do want to see on screen. That's something that would have been nice if Gotham, the show, provided instead of all that comic hilarity or foolishness. This is something that is not going to be about being funny, but hopefully, a coherent mystery, something that Batman actually has to solve. Because when's the last time Batman had to solve a mystery?
Right.
In a movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's one of the.
Go ahead.
I'll wait till you finish.
No, I
I'm
finished.
Kanye, you. I'm gonna let you finish.
No. I
So-
actually finished. Go ahead.
Okay. I really want a comic a movie that displays Batman's detective skills. If he's the world's greatest detective, where is that? We haven't seen that in any of the Batman. The closest we got was Christian Bale, sort of, when he did the hacking into every cell phone. That wasn't
Yeah.
as much as of a detective as it was a just resourcefulness and invasion of privacy. But I want to see the world's greatest detective.
Yeah, I want to see
So
Sherlock Holmes behind under the
exactly.
cowl. Yes.
When I was watching Sherlock Holmes, the Robert Downey Jr. version, and he paused and they did the narration for him in the mind. He's like, all right, hit the solar plex, hit this and hit that, and he actually performed the actions. That's what, because at that point in time, Christian Bale's movie was just about to come out. So I was like, that's what I want to see in Christian Bale's comic, in Christian Bale's Batman. That methodical nature and that detectiveness, that like very analytical. He is a master. Bruce Wayne is supposed to be a master in detectiveness and forensic science and the art of escapism
Yeah.
and like all these
Disguise.
different
Yeah.
yes, all these different things, and that has not been utilized. You just have a man in a bat suit kicking butt.
Yeah.
That's just one element of him. So if Robert Pattinson's Batman can connect with me on that level, I am all for. And that's been alluded to. Also, he gives me like Terry McGinnis vibes when there's a scene when he takes off his cowl and he's sitting there. You just see his silhouette next to his Batmobile. I don't know why, but that just very much reminded me of a young Terry McGinnis finding his way in the Batman world. And that's what he's doing. He's finding his way. This is year 2. Hopefully this will become our Batman. I mean, look at Heath Ledger's Joker. We didn't think that was going to go, but
Yeah.
Remember, HBO Plus is actually going to do a series that takes place right before this movie. It's going to be sort of Batman Year One series in Gotham.
nice.
But so it's going to be a prequel that is going to exist on HBO Max. So I think their plan is good. I mean, who knows if the movie's going to be garbage or not? We don't know yet. But the ideas are there. I like the ideas of it. I don't know if the trailer sold me more than I was already sold. But at least I feel like that character can possibly pull off a year 2 Batman.
It's funny because I had forgotten that they even hired him to be Batman. I remember the internet just losing their shit. They're like, "Oh, the fucking Twilight guy is gonna be Batman," and then like nothing, right? And then this drops. I'm like, "Oh, that's right, it's the Twilight." But I actually think he's gonna do a decent job based on what they showed us in the trailer. You know, the whole thing that sparked this is a Twitter image that I posted. And it was like everyone after the Robert Pattinson Batman, and it's a little girl sitting on her bed with Robert Pattinson posters all around.
I remember seeing. Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, like I don't know. He seems to be a pretty good actor, so I think he could pull it off. I think where my thing's gonna be is kind of what you guys are talking about. Like I would love to see a detective story. But Russ, you and I have had this conversation, and you're like, how can the '60s Adam West Batman movie be your favorite Batman movie? I kind of like the camp, and I think one of my favorite Batman movies is Batman Forever. Joel Schumacher he somehow was able to mold and mesh the '60s camp with the Tim Burton-esque feel of the movies, and I liked that personally. I think the Christian Bale movies were a little too dark for me, so I don't know. We'll see if this is more of a detective story and not just we have to be edgy, dark DC because it's a movie.
Well, it is Batman, so Batman. Is, except for that one Batman that you like, all the other Batman, all the comics are edgy and dark.
Yeah.
It's not like, I understand your conversation about DC. And by the way, I did see the latest DC Superman movie, animated.
Okay.
It's not bad. It's not groundbreaking, but it also speaks to the hope, and it's positive, and it's the light is shining.
Nice.
And it's not, there's no bleakness to it. There's only hope. So
Man
I
of
like
Tomorrow?
that. Yes.
Okay.
It's not bad. It's not bad in any way. but it's not groundbreaking either. That makes sense,
Yeah.
right? But it's better than some of these others. It's better than Superman Brainiac Attacks. It's better than those to me. Some of those really whack ones. And they say this is the first of the universe. You get to see Martian Manhunter. You get to see Lobo. Take a look wherever you can rent your movie online. That would be. And I also want to see the Deathstroke one. You know, they did a DC Deathstroke animated movie.
Oh, all right.
Just
Okay.
recently. So I don't know if that's any good. I haven't seen it yet, but it's on my list. One more thing. Speaking of that Batman one book we just saw, I was just looking through it again, and there's a panel where you can see Batgirl's eyebrows through her cowl. When like, what did you do, Jason? Then all of a sudden you go, what the hell did you do? And then all of a sudden you see her eyebrows. I'm like, oh my goodness, what kind of bat costume is this?
She is amazed.
Yeah,
Super
right?
Amazed.
So amazed that her eyebrows punch through her cowl and create indentations. Anyway, I just wanted to,
Nice.
All right.
I do have if we have time, I do have a question though.
Yeah, so I was going to mention we've got a couple of links. One related to Leviathan Checkmate, how that's postponed. The Polygon article that I used to make my decision and pick Action Comics 1004. All those will be in the show notes. And then you've got a question. Did you want to bring up the ElfQuest thing or?
Yes. So I don't know if you are classic fans of ElfQuest. ElfQuest is an old school book series of books, very famous, very huge. And apparently you can now go to elfquest.com and read all of them online legally. I will put a link in the show notes, and I'm talking all of them.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good reading here. This is a lot of good stuff back in the day. I really loved ElfQuest in a way that I also loved heavy metal in its own way. ElfQuest was just great. I don't know why there was an animated series and all of this. There should have been. I guess there still can be. But if you want to read those comics and all the other series, I don't know why they're giving them away, but it is legal. Otherwise, we would be putting it in the show notes. You can go online to elfquest.com and read all of those books. I think it might be worth your time to take a look.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right.
And I do have a question of the week.
Yes.
All right. How much would you give up for power, revenge, or to save a loved one? Would you truly give up an arm and a leg? What would such power be worth to you? So let's say you get as much power based on how much you give up. If you give up your pinky finger, you get a pinky finger's worth of power. Is that worth it to you? If you give up your soul, you get all about the power, right? It's up to you, right? So the question is, especially if you want revenge, or especially if you want to save your loved one from a situation you can't save them from, right? Or if you want to cure someone who is dying from a disease, right? What would you give up, permanently give up, for that power? Would you give up your pinky toe? Yes, I give up my pinky toe. Would you give up all your toes on the left foot? Because the greater value, the greater the power. Would you give up your left leg below the knee? What would you do for power? Go ahead.
If you give up your entire body, then the power in which you receive is equal to that. So you could probably end up creating or putting your consciousness in another body. So I'd rational.
You're gonna kill somebody to get their body?
No, you said, you actually have to inflict that on someone else. I thought you were giving up your own.
No, you're giving up your body, but now you don't have one.
Yes, you're a disembodied, so you can put it into some sort of android.
Oh yeah, but where are you going to get Android from? I'm talking if I give it to you right now. If you say
right
yes,
now, there's
right,
time.
we're not in the Marvel universe.
Okay,
we're in the Corner Comics universe, in this real universe.
So
right?
Just be a disembodied figure. I'd be a ghost essentially, just cruising the world trying to find a body.
but no sex ever again. No
Like
loving,
Dead
no
Man.
getting off, never again.
Mm. And I'd have like dead man powers because he has a
Well, that,
doesn't have a
yeah,
body, but
yeah, but you know, you could impose your will on other people if that's what you want to do. So how much would you give up? What is when you think about your body and your spirit and your kind? How much would you give up for power? Because here's the thing: if this question went to a TV show, what do you call that? What do you call these live TV shows where everybody lives in the
Reality?
same house? If this was a
Reality
reality
television.
show, and I said, and I people lined up to be on the show, what would you give up for power? Do you really? You know the line would be all around the planet, right?
yeah. There'd be a couple lawnmower men. Like, they
Right?
just went completely digital, and their
Yes.
mind and consciousness and soul exists
Right.
online.
Right? And then, because there are people who would give their kidney for someone else to live a few years longer. Would you give a kidney for something? You got another one. Hopefully it doesn't fail, but you got another one.
Yeah.
Right?
It limits your drinking.
Right? Or would you give up your left testicle? I mean, is the right one enough to do the job? Or are you worried when someone looks at it, they might get grossed out? I don't know. Right? I mean, it's not like everybody sees all of it. You know what I'm saying? Would you give up? But if you want more power, would you give up your left leg above the knee? Right? Would you give up your entire left leg? You'd be greater power. You walk around, you see people out there with just like no left foot, right? Because that's the most they were willing to give up, right? And you come see people who gave up, who went quadriplegic to have powers. You know what I mean? What would you give up?
That is an interesting question because I'm thinking about like who is giving out power for body parts? What are they doing with these body parts? What's going on? But I understand your question. That's beyond the scope of your question. That's
Yeah,
kind
the
of
question
my
is,
mind
what
going.
would you, because all of this, the hero conversation is what you're willing to give up. What are you willing to do to get what you want? Right? Are you the kind of person that plays it safe? There's no power for you. Right? That's okay. There's nothing wrong with having a power in this life. Right? What if, though, you could give up the hand you don't use?
I use both of my hands.
Yeah. On a
Yeah,
regular
well, okay.
basis.
So obviously you're not giving up your hands, but what do you need legs for? You get a Professor X chair.
I've always wanted to own a rascal.
Right? And what would what would you give up your ear for?
Yeah.
Would you give up your ear? I mean, you can still hear. We're just talking the outside of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
You could get a tattoo of an ear to take its place. It would be clean. It wouldn't be like ripped off, like somebody bit it off. Just you don't have an ear anymore.
But could you replace it with a prosthetic?
Well, if current technology allows for it, yes. You got to pay for it though.
Okay.
So here's
Well,
the thing: if you
that
gave
point,
up an
powerful.
ear to have superpowers, you couldn't have a secret identity because everyone, oh, you're the guy with no ear. Right? So, you got to be careful how you do that. Or if you give up a leg to,
Unless that power is to morph.
right? Would you give up your left arm to be able to run 10 times the 10 times the speed of any human?
You get
For
to
an
pick
hour?
your power because if I have to give up a leg and all I got was like the
You
ability
do
to
get
make
to pick
something
your-
invisible when I touch it,
You do get to pick your power, but the effectiveness of the power is based on what you give up. Does that make sense?
Okay.
it does. But then I think there's still wiggle room because I could say my leg is worth telekinesis, and someone
No.
can argue.
Yeah, and they
otherwise.
say it is, but you can only lift things up to 10 ounces. So it really depends on, right? It really depends on how, you know what I'm saying?
What if
You can-
I'm
you-
a really big
thi-
dude and my leg
this
weighs
is
a
not-
lot?
Well, yeah, this is not negotiable. There's just a straight set
I
leg
want,
price.
I want telekinesis.
There's a set leg.
equal to-
I will take a diseased leg though. If your leg is diseased, I'll still take it from you. But there's a set leg price. All right. Look at the menu.
set
Look at
leg
the-
price.
Right. Now you can pick your power, but the amount of power, the grandness of the power, is based on what you give up. Say would you give up your ability to speak English? What would that be worth? Would you be willing to give up? Like you only have knowledge of the other languages that you currently have, right? So however much Spanish you know, that's all you got. Or your other languages, but your ability to speak English, you would have to learn it from scratch.
Well,
Would you give up for that?
That's all right, but you can gain that back over time. So you would have the power plus.
Well, in theory, you could gain it back, but you don't have the same context, and you really know nothing. It's like asking you to speak a dead language. You know what I mean? Or a language that, remember, and then how do you communicate right now? Like if I took English away from you, you only have minimum knowledge of these other languages. So you really can't communicate well at all.
I'd have to play Pictionary all day, every day.
Right, but you can't Pictionary, but you can't use English words because you don't know any.
You just have to point to whatever it is you want.
Right, and hopefully, yeah, but that doesn't get you a job. That doesn't get you money. You see what I'm saying? What is that? Like I asked someone this.
So you can leverage that.
I asked a woman at my job who's very clearly bilingual.
Yeah.
And I said, I'll give you $1 million for all of your Spanish. You don't have it anymore. You can go relearn it. But is it worth $1 million for you to give up, sever Spanish from your life? Give it to me. If you got people in your life that speak Spanish, you don't understand what the fuck they're talking about. You don't have memories of this that connect you with those words. That goes away, but here's cash. Would you give it up? Right?
A response.
And some of them said for $1 million, but once I got lower, no. Because what if I said, I'm only giving out $10,000, but it's $10,000 cash tax free. I'm putting it right here.
$950,000.
You want this or not?
That's my final
Right?
offer.
Yeah, you want this? $10,000. Right? Here you go. $10,000 cash. You know what? For you, $20,000. Final offer. $20,000 cash tax free. When I walk away, you walk away with this $20,000. I walk away speaking all your Spanish. What is it going to be? One time only. There's no negotiation. What's it going to be? You trying to tell me people won't give it up?
With that, all right. So if you're bilingual, you can probably substitute abuela with grandma. But then all the associations with abuela, the heart connection, the emotions.
Abuelita.
Yeah. All of that.
That's gone.
A lot of I think a lot of people like dream in other languages if they know multiple languages, or if they grew up speaking one language over the other.
I only want the primary language. I don't want your secondary stinking languages. I only want your primary language.
Well, I'm just saying, like, well, all right. So the question is, do they even have any language skills at that point? Because if you understand the world in one language and you've learned another language based on that other language, do you lose?
Not my problem.
Do you lose the ability of the second language because you're informed by the words from the first language?
Ah, the devil's bargain.
Monkey paw.
Yeah, right. So again, you want telekinesis? Yes. You want to be able to teleport? Yes. But if you're only giving up a few fingers, you're only going to be able to teleport a few feet. That's cool, though. I mean, you can do it.
Yeah.
Right?
But in this world, there's not a lot of instances where that would save your life. We're not getting into
this
disaster.
This isn't about, like, well, it depends on what you want. You tell me what you want and what you're willing to pay. You get to pick your power. It's not like I'm telling you what power you're going to have. Right?
Yeah.
Say, I want to run at super speed, but that doesn't mean that if you don't run too fast, you won't get cramps. That doesn't mean that the friction of you running won't burn your skin, right? That doesn't mean any of that. I'm just telling you what you want, what you willing to pay. I ain't got time. Come on, I got people in line. What do you want? What are you willing to give up? I don't take money. Got money. Plenty of money. Right? What do you want? What do you want to give?
I don't need body parts.
Right? Yep. Because what if I told you that in the end of my comic book that I just now made up, that each of these are pieces of your soul?
Okay.
Oh, gosh.
You just don't think they are because you think somehow your soul is going to look like your whole body as a ghost. And I say no.
Okay.
Interesting.
Right? So what are you willing to give up? What power do you want? You want to be able to run fast? What do you want? What's your power? Let's just tell me first. Let's start with what power do you want?
I
got all of them.
Let's do let's do telepathy.
Telepathy. Okay.
How much
Now,
does telepathy cost?
how much you willing to pay? What do you mean? How much does it cost? The power level is based on what you're willing to give up.
I'll give you my goatee.
Well then, since you can goatee back and I can get any goatee easily, because I can get a goatee from a goat, then you're only gonna have telepathy for a few minutes.
And that's it.
That's it, yeah. Because because you could just get that. I'm sorry. What is the value of a goatee?
All right, so-
It's not like I need human hair in order to build a hat.
So every time I shave, I gain the ability to.
Yeah.
Teleportation.
I gain telepathy for a few minutes.
Yeah.
So what if I
I'll
choose
give you that.
teleportation?
I'll give you that.
Since you're collecting body parts and I want teleportation, would my semen be enough? Because you're collecting body parts.
Let's just say you can only teleport as far as your semen can spew. Now.
And on that note, gentlemen.
I figured.
I've done it again.
All right, if you have any thoughts you want to add to this conversation, you can hit us up in the comments. Go to cornercomics.net. Find the show notes for episode 38, which was today, and leave us a comment. If you are listening to this on Spotify, Apple, Google, wherever, and maybe you don't visit the website, you can send us an email, cornercomicsofficial@gmail.com. Let us know your thoughts, and we'll talk about it on the show.
R.I.P. Chadwick Boseman.
Yes. R.I.P. Because, man, that came out of nowhere. I did remember seeing a few months ago some pictures of him being super skinny, and people were like, Chadwick Boseman is sick, but no one, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I didn't know if that was somebody just running a game or something like that. And then, boom,
Yeah, it's
now he's
hard to
gone.
tell with actors
Yeah.
because they sometimes lose weight or gain weight for a role. So, and he wasn't verbal about it. So I just assumed I saw the same pictures. I don't know if it's the same, but I saw similar pictures. I don't know if it was for a role or not. He's played just about every black public figure in the world.
Yes.
It seems. So I didn't know. And yeah, he suffered in silence.
Yeah.
Except for those who were really close to him in his life. So, but he
Right.
was really that kind of person that could play anybody that was black, and you believed him. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
He did James Brown. He did, which everybody can't do James Brown. He did all of these people.
Jackie Robinson.
This is a major loss to acting the profession. I don't know if anybody's ever going to be the Black Panther right now that after he was. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know if we're ever going to. I mean, obviously, we're going to have another Black Panther movie ultimately, but I don't know that anyone. It's like who plays the Joker well after Heath Ledger, right? No one really, nails it. And,
Well, I mean, it's a tragedy.
it is a tragedy.
But a lot of people didn't think that maybe, after Jack Nicholson, there'd be another good Joker. So
That's true.
there could be a young guy coming up that, will do the role justice. So,
But I do, rest in peace. He will be missed.
yeah.
It is a major tragedy. We did not see it coming. And thanks to people who stayed enough out of his business that he could have dealt with that with his family without us, everybody having to watch every step of the way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm glad that if he had to go, I'm glad he was able to go outside of all the media scrutiny that
It's the
normally
bullshit
would
that
follow
comes with
anyone.
fame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With the situation with Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith in their marriage, I don't see why the public, yes, they're public figures, but the public shouldn't have a say-so in their marriage. They don't owe anything to us about sitting down and airing out this, whatever it is they got going on. I didn't watch it because it's none of my business. But when you're a public figure,
well, I think if you want to put your stuff on Red Table Talk, then you invite for that. You know what I mean? If you want to,
there's no obligation.
if you are profiting off of our interest in your personal life, like any reality TV star, right, is profiting off of that interest and parlaying that into money, You know, if I become the greatest podcast host of all time, people are going to be in my business. But I want that money.
All right.
So, you know, they have to decide. Now, if I want to be the greatest behind the scenes person, I can do that, right? But if you want to kind of, you know, I
That's
just
why a
feel
great
like,
job would have been a voiceover for Bart Simpson, like because she makes buku money. But if she's walking to your Barnes and Noble and you see
On
her,
that note,
you would
gentlemen,
not know who
I'm
that
calling
is.
it.
okay. And yes, and if you can think of any
Totally
product-
talking about this off air.
Yeah, if you think of any good pottery, we'll call it.